Hello, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, and of course, the awesome LinkedIn. My name is Frank Lavinia, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Frank Diggs Data, and you can check me out the following URLs: franksworld.com, datadriven.tv, and Impact Quantum. So I had an interesting conversation today, and just drop in the comments where you're from and if you have any questions, and I will endeavor to answer them live on the air, so to speak, through the magic of the internets. One of the interesting things that kind of came up in a conversation I had just now. Hey, it just shows LinkedIn user. You have a great day too. I think I can narrow down whose account always shows up as LinkedIn to two folks. So awesome. Hope you're having a great day too. So kind of one of the analogies that kind of came out is, if data is the new oil, and let me kind of back that up, right? That is a term. Let me lower my mic. That's a term that gets used around a lot. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you found oil underneath your house today. And it's Rupesh. I thought it was you. It was either you or Maina. Both of you, for some reason, just the Restream API does not carry over your name, which makes you very special. And Rupesh is more special in more ways than one. He's an awesome entrepreneur. He's doing some amazing things in India. And he's got this awesome app that lets you kind of capture data from a phone, which I think dovetails nicely into what I'm talking about, right? So when you, data is the new oil. It's on the verge of extinction. Yeah, I probably need a better analogy for that one. But ultimately, it's the idea that, when you see an article, I like that. Data is not on the verge of this extinction, by the way. So, but I mean, let me back up. When you look at an article and they talk about this new innovation in artificial intelligence or machine learning, what do you see? They talk about the innovation. Right? GPT-3 can generate, human-centered text, blah blah blah, and how this is going to, get rid of all the jobs, right? Whatever the hysteria of that is. Oh, quantum computing, I could geek out about that hard. But hold that thought. But ultimately, what they don't tell you, and some of the articles will kind of mention this, is that it took about, depending on who you believe or whom you believe, it took either $4 million or $12 million to train GPT-3. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, GPT-3 is a natural language model that it will basically write text as if a human wrote it. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's impressive in terms of these generations. Data literally comes moot in that way. That is true. Quantum computing does have the chance. I wouldn't say totally moot, but it does change the game in terms of what's feasible. But so ultimately, it turns out it took about somewhere between $4 to $12 million to train GPT-3. GPT-3 is a language creation model, natural language creation, natural language understanding, depending on who you believe. But ultimately, what GPT-3 does is that it generates text in a way that it actually looks pretty coherent, in a way that maybe a computer couldn't do historically. And why that's important is you can just kind of give it a sentence to kind of get it going along, right? There used to be a site called talktotransformer.com. And I don't think that wasn't GPT-3, that was the predecessor GPT-2. And, you would say like, what are the top 10 things I'll need to bring with me to space or something like that. It would actually catch that. You can actually type in the Yankees are playing today, and it would come through, and it would basically talk about a baseball game. So it would kind of catch that. The point of that is that the GPT-3 was markedly better, but it took 1.4 trillion parameters or something like that, language parameters. So if you just kind of step back and you imagine what it would take to train that, the amount of data engineering that would take to do that, right? Take a look at the Microsoft Computer Vision API, or any computer vision API of kind of commercial grade. It was trained on 50 million images. Wow, that's a lot. But not as much as the work of, well, how are the images stored? How are they transferred? How are they loaded into the system? Where are they stored? What's the metadata about it, right? Because ultimately, you get kind of the description of what's in the picture. You get the trace outline, the box, or the actual I forget what the word is, but the actual outline of what it is, right? So how much data went into that? How much training went into that? How much labor went into doing the markup on those images? And well, how was that data stored? How was it collected? That's how we get into Pixie, because Pixie is an interesting, which apparently there's an update out. Pixie is a mobile app that, what I think is really cool about it isn't just that it takes pictures and you can kind of label the stuff right away, but it doesn't touch their servers. It basically dumps it into your Google Drive. Or is it Box? I forget. I think it's Google Drive. I think it drops it right away in your Google Drive, so they don't even see it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rupesh, but you built that for your own kind of other startup you have. Told you Rupesh is awesome. But ultimately, I think what the analogy is, right? If data is the new oil, right? Well, we know what data kind of looks like, right? It's on these various disparate sources. We know what oil looks like. If I say oil, first thing in your head is you think of the offshore rig or the oil derricks in the land, those crazy things that look like the pumping things. That's what you think of, right? Their next interaction with oil, for most people, at least for the foreseeable future, is at the gas pump, right? Or the diesel pump or the jet fuel, whatever, right? There's a whole process in between that you don't think of. And I think data engineering work that way too, right? People, they know they have the data. These enterprises have the data, but what they do is they go out and they see the final product, the dashboard, the AI model, that predicts the maintenance and all that sort of thing, but they don't see kind of that work that happens in between. So most Americans only know about the pipeline system that runs throughout the country because it was shut down by hackers, right? And, I grew up in New Jersey, right? And if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear Andy rib me about that quite a bit. But I see your comments, Rupesh, I'll get to them. But ultimately, unless you drive through refineries or you work in an area or live in an area with a lot of them, aka the Jersey Turnpike, if you ever drive through the New Jersey Turnpike, you're going to go in a spot through the state where it's basically oil refinery after oil refinery, right? That's the reputation the state has, right or wrong. But I mean, the point is that data engineers, all that engineering work that has to go from getting it from point A to point B to from one shape to another to do the refining to make it so as a final product. I mean, that's data engineering right there. And I think that is very not well understood by most people, right? So most folks in the C-suite, well, all they hear are the buzzwords and stuff like that, right? And the technical decision makers are all about, whoa, this AI model, we want to bring AI to our company, but they don't think about the data engineering that has to happen to make that work. And I said this to Andy on the podcast, datadriven.tv, or you can just say, Alexa, play data-driven. Ultimately, it's one of those things that's really underappreciated, that data engineering aspect of it. So most people, they make fun of New Jersey, because of all the petrochemical kind of stuff going on there. But is that really, without that, there's no planes, there's no cars, there's as much as we want to get on electric vehicles. But even then, most electricity is not generated by renewables. All of which is a long-winded way of saying, who's doing the data engineering, right? And that is the most underappreciated aspect of AI and ML, is that aspect. All right, so comments. So same startup. So Pixie is a startup. It's this really cool thing, and he basically built his in-house tool to kind of label images. He was training up a computer vision service. And correct me if I'm wrong with the story, Rupesh, but they basically built this really cool kind of data labeling tool. And it's also a minimal viable product for this smart lens thing he's building as part of this startup. Or is that a separate startup? But it's really cool. It's a data labeling kind of image data labeling tool, which is sorely needed. And I like it for the privacy thing because it doesn't touch their servers. It just basically goes straight to your own G drive. Rupesh is a really smart guy, by the way. There, that's his name. Rupesh. Also known as LinkedIn user on my live streams. Pick is the thing. Oh, so pick C is it's seeing. Got it. Pick with 2 Ks. Got it. And no C. Got it. Sorry, my coffee machine wasn't working this morning, so that has set up a cascade failure of a lot of things. It's end-to-end Google. So Google sees your data, but they don't. So I'm not going to touch that one. Anytime, man. Rupesh is an awesome guy. He has a podcast. He does Instagram live streams. He's an awesome dude. You should totally follow him. What's your Instagram account? Just put that in the chat. I'll post it up. He's an awesome guy. But so ultimately, I think that's kind of the thing, and we've kind of touched on this on the podcast datadriven.tv. We've touched on this, is that the importance of data engineering. Rupesh Malpani, I'll put that up. Yeah, follow him on Instagram. He's pretty awesome. But the interesting thing is that data engineers are kind of like the plumbers in the world, right? If we're going to a data, all that plumbing, all that kind of that work that people that don't make the headlines of AI research, that's just as crucial and important. And I think enterprises are going to start, if they haven't noticed it already, they're going to have to notice it. Because so the first thing you do if you have an AI initiative, it's like, well, okay, what's the data? Do we have the data? Oh, well, we don't have it in a data lake. We don't have it in a data warehouse. Like, okay, well, you got to do that. An AI researcher isn't going to. There's some debate whether or not AI or data scientists need to know SQL. Yeah, you heard that right. There's actually debate about that. Now, obviously, I think they do need to know it, but people online will fight me over that one. So go figure. People will fight you online over anything. The short of it is that I think that there's definitely, I think as everyone rushes to become data scientists, as they should, it's a great career. Ask me how I know. You have to get the data. And then, yes, Andy Leonard, my brother from another mother, is on the stream. If you want to invite Andy, we can go on. I'm good for 5 more minutes. I have a meeting at 1, but another guy you should follow online and on LinkedIn. He does some awesome feeds. He is the data engineer's data engineer. Awesome dude. I may be a bit biased on that, but yeah. So we've interviewed folks that on the show, and that's how they say, well, first you get the data. Like, you realize, like, right there is 6 months. Like, it could be 6 months depending on what you're doing, right? And it is crucial, right? Without the data, you have no data. You have a meeting too. You are learning again. Awesome. Learning is good. But anyway, since I do have a meeting and I have to see if I can get myself some coffee in between now and then, I will wrap this up. But I'm glad to see Andy on. Today's live stream is a bit more positive and upbeat than yesterday's. But the short of it is that you need to have data, and first you get the data. That little phrase, those 5 words, could be 5 months, could be 5 weeks, could be 5 years in some extreme cases. But ultimately, that is the part that that is underappreciated and yet so crucial, right? We see in the news the oil rigs, we see in the news and in our lives the gas pumps, but how many people see kind of how you get from there from point A to point B, right? There's a whole lot of things that happen in the middle. Same holds true for data engineering. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you, Andy, for tuning in live. Thank you, Rupesh, for being just an awesome individual. Andy, you're an awesome individual too, but you already knew that. Hope you have a great day. Go check out Pick. Go follow Rupesh here on Instagram. And since you've been hanging out this long, why don't you go treat yourself to an audiobook? Go to thedatadrivenbook.com. You get one audiobook on us at Data Driven. And if you sign up, we'll get a little bit of a kickback, maybe enough to buy a cup of coffee. But ultimately, you know, speaking of learning, it's a great way to learn, right? You take that downtime you have and you learn some interesting books. I've been listening to an interesting book by Bob Proctor, and it's called The Secret of Success, I believe it's called. I'll probably do a proper review on it another time. But for now, I have to get going. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.